Hello and welcome to LanguageCraft for the 6th episode of Let's Timelapse. Now here we are on the roof of a market stall in the marketplace, but before we continue, let's take a look at what we've done so far. This is episode 6, we've had 5 so far. What have we done in them? Now here we are, first of all, the bridge from episode 2 where we did the organization, obviously the terraforming around it. And here is the very first neighborhood with, among other things, a well. Many of you said that the marketplace was missing a well, but actually we have one here and I plan on making another one on the town square over which we are going right now, but just not in the marketplace. We'll have 3 total, that should be enough. And here we have a couple of new houses. So on the right, you know those that's the first neighborhood, we've done those before, but straight ahead, a few new houses that I built since the last episode. You know that I build a couple each time, and so this is to fill up between the river and the marketplace, and more will come where the camera is now to surround the front of the church. But actually, today we're going to move away from the village itself. According to the layout, all the surroundings around here were planned out as fields, so that's what we're going to do. You might think that it's going to be a very light episode, but you'll see that that's not completely true. We have to create a whole new style, and the area is actually quite huge. So we're starting with the fields themselves, and as you can see, we're putting them absolutely everywhere, but only on this side of the road. On the far side is going to be a forest. So this is all thanks to a brush that Aurélien Sama taught me, and you need to combine Voxel Sniper and World Edit to make it. So in reality, in medieval times, fields were not this big. They were broken up into workable areas owned by different people, and so they were small squares, shall we say. They also didn't all grow the same type of plants, whereas here we have wheat everywhere. So it's not really realistic, but actually my history advisor himself said that huge fields like this in Minecraft looked much better, like a lot cooler. So for once we'll stray away from perfect realism. I also left the trees because at the time fields appeared where the forest was pushed back, but trees here and there actually add something quite nice. So now we're going to work on the houses, which as you can see are actually much smaller than the houses in the village itself. And also notice all the blocks that I'm placing. They don't actually form a pattern. That's what I did at first. I had made patterns, but it didn't look poor enough. And so in the end what I did was grab all my blocks, including cobblestone actually, even though poor houses didn't really have stone at the time. It adds an interesting contrast, and cobblestone in Minecraft is a poor material, shall we say. Also orange planks, which is jungle wood, which has been retextured a bit because the original texture is just too close to spruce, it's not interesting. Generally speaking, after choosing my blocks, so jungle logs and planks, fences, cobblestone, things like that, I just place them randomly. I just place my blocks any which way, but I always made sure that it created depth. For example, I will often place a slab on the top of a block if to the side of it I put a stair on the bottom of the block. That way it creates a diagonal. But that's about it. For the rest, it's just random, and it gives an impression of a house really built from scratch, as best as possible given the conditions, but it's really poor. This is not, however, the case from the interior of the wall. The interior is actually quite flat, the ground is dirt and a little bit of gravel, but I need to work again on the inside of the house for sure. Concerning the roofs, originally they were pointy, like the ones in the center of the village, but it didn't really fit. So what I did was actually do the opposite, and I made a flat top instead of one that points out. It works much better. So I kept the blocks that go around and look like they hold the roof together, but changed the material. In the village, that's cobblestone, and in the periphery here, I made it out of birch wood, which is that very light wood. You can also note that just like the walls, the blocks of the roof are also being placed any which way This is something that I will bring into the village in the future. The destroyed, imperfect side really gives the structure a lot of personality. And in the future, I think we'll probably spend a whole episode going over what we've done previously in the center of the village to really break things and make it more believable. Now this is something that I've noticed quite a few times actually. For example, while editing our team time-lapses, which are really huge and we're really proud of them, but sometimes when I edit, I realize that some parts are actually too perfect. They should be broken up, they shouldn't be completely symmetrical. And so I often change the edit just to give it a little bit more soul. Now this house that we're about to build on the left is a little bit special. Because as you will be able to see, it's poor. You know, it's in the periphery, and like all the other buildings like this, they're all poor. But you'll see that it has 2 stories. Which is a bit strange because having a second story is, I would say, a mark of wealth. For me, this is because this is an inn. And as an inn, it can obviously be much bigger because it's a trade. And the 2 sort of arms that you can see jutting out, those are going to be stables. It makes more sense because not everyone can go into the inn in the center of the village and just go there. I mean, I'm sure it's a bit more expensive. And for example, if you think of couriers, there were a lot of couriers in that time. They couldn't all just stay in the center of the village. They would probably stay on the outskirts and leave as soon as their message was delivered. Now, I must admit I was a bit surprised when I built this, because at first I didn't want to make a building with 2 stories. I thought it just wouldn't work. And in the end, as you'll see, it actually makes sense. It looks really heavy. And you'll be able to see in the cinematic that it just makes sense, and that having a second story is not a problem as long as the aesthetic matched the other buildings of the periphery. So this is what one will see when coming from the sea, just next to the commerce port. Huge fields and a lot of houses. I must say, originally I thought the fields would be good for this episode because I didn't have a lot of time. But it actually took a really long time to design a whole new style and to build about 10 houses in the end. This is the main road coming out from the village across the bridge. And you can see the stables on the left, right about now, and the inn is coming up on your right. Now here is a warehouse that I actually forgot to fill with things. I should have done that, and I'll do that in the next episode, just put merchandise in there. And same thing with the stables at the inn. I just need to put things like that, water for the horses, things like that. And for this building, I think that the general architecture really gives it a really heavy feel, and it's really low and it's big and bulky, and I think that's a really good contrast to the center of the village. Now, something that I find really important concerning details is that the level of wealth and the level of detail shouldn't go hand in hand. Here, my poor houses have a lot of relief and a lot of detail and depth because that's the style of the village. Even though they're dilapidated, they should still have the same style as the rest of the village. For me, it doesn't go together. For me, those are 2 separate things. Anyway, it looks really nice by night. It's not too much light, but you can see that there are people living there. And in the next episode, we will fill the fields with walls and structures to fill everything up, and we're going to put actually 2 big structures to really center the field life around. As usual, we end with an overhead view of the village, and as you can see, in terms of area, we've actually almost doubled the size of the village. And now they have the means to feed themselves, which is always a good thing. Anyway, thank you for watching. This has been a different episode. I'm glad we did this. Coming out of the village was very interesting. And next time we'll stay there before we go back inside the village itself. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.